What's going on, everybody? It's Nice Pants Lance, and today I'm bringing you the top 15 muscle cruisers. This style of motorcycle is a personal favorite of mine, and some recent entries into this category compelled me to make this updated list. There's a lot of motorcycles to go over, so buckle up. I also had to leave out a ton of visual content to avoid copyright infringement, so bear with me. I've loosely ranked these bikes based on a number of factors such as torque, engine displacement, speed, overall muscle cruiser character, etc., etc. For me to consider these bikes muscle cruisers, they gotta meet certain criteria. These bikes need to have an engine displacement of 1600 cc's or more. I don't care how fast your Honda Magna is, you won't find it on the list. I'm only allowing production models too, so if you think your Chevy 350 powered Boss Hoss will make it onto the list, you're gonna be disappointed. Also, the motors must be factory standard, which means your Screaming Eagle 131 cubic inch Fat Bob doesn't count. Lastly, the bikes I've selected must put out more than 100 foot-pounds of torque. That means I'm excluding the V-Rod and Ducati Diavolo. In my unpopular opinion, the V-Rod makes power and torque like a Triumph Speed Triple. Also, sticking forward controls and a cruiser seating on a Ducati with a Testastretta motor does not make it a muscle cruiser. Please keep in mind that claim manufacturer power figures are measured to the crank, so wheel power figures measured on a dyno will in fact be different. I will be mentioning either dry or wet weights, so pay attention. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe and hit that bell icon for the latest news, reviews, part installs, 0 to 60s, and good old-fashioned motorcycle content. Now, let's get started with the top 15 muscle cruisers. First entry on the list comes from Harley Davidson. Number 15 is the CVO Street Glide with the 117 cubic inch Milwaukee 8. As much as many of you love to hate Harley Davidson, there's no denying that they make some of the largest and torquiest air-cooled V-twins on earth. The 117 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 delivers a hefty 126 foot-pounds of torque at 3400 RPM, with over 100 foot-pounds of that coming in under 3000 RPM. Harley is hush-hush about their horsepower figures, but dyno charts suggest crank power to be in the 100 horsepower range. Even though the CVO Street Glide comes in at 840 pounds curb weight, its massive motor allows 4.5 second 0 to 60s and a low 13-second quarter mile time. Number 14 on the list is the Indian Vintage Darkhorse with the 116 cubic inch Thunderstroke. Indian is a direct competitor of Harley Davidson, and its flagship air and oil cooled 111 cubic inch Thunderstroke V-twin has been updated to 116 cubic inches and now comes standard in most of their Darkhorse models. The 786 pound Vintage Darkhorse 116 puts out a whopping 126 foot-pounds at just 2900 RPM, which gives it the torque to weight ratio of a Dodge Hellcat. Like Harley, Indian chooses not to disclose horsepower figures, but dyno sheets suggest crank power is around the 90 to 100 horsepower range. This encourages a low 4 second 0 to 60 time and a quarter mile in 13 seconds flat. Number 13 is the brand new BMW R18 with the 1800cc Boxer twin. This German motorcycle manufacturer has been using the Boxer motor since the 1920s and now offers the R18 with the largest displacement air and oil cooled Boxer twin ever made. This 760 pound muscle bike puts out a claimed 91 horsepower at 4700 RPM and 116 foot-pounds of torque at 3000 RPM. With over 95 foot-pounds of torque available at just 1700 RPM. This means the BMW R18 is right in line with even Harley and Indian in the power cruiser segment. Number 12 is the Breakout 114 from Harley Davidson. This chopper style hot rod comes in at 650 pounds curb weight, which makes it one of the lightest big bore cruisers that Harley offers. The 114 cubic inch Milwaukee 8 V-twin offers a healthy 119 foot-pounds of torque at just 3,000 RPM, and dyno charts suggest the bike makes around 90 crank horsepower. The Breakout 114 can bust out sub 4 second 0 to 60s and is capable of mid to low 12-second quarter miles. I rode one of these a few months ago, and I can confirm it is no slouch. Check out my video if you want to see more. Number 11 on the list is the Victory Hammer S with the Freedom 106 V-Twin. Gone but not forgotten, Victory has a huge cult following and was once known for producing powerful American muscle cruisers with retro styling. The Hammer S comes in at 670 pounds dry and produces 97 horsepower at 5,000 RPM and 113 foot-pounds of torque at 4,000 RPM. Its high-revving air and oil-cooled V-twin allowed it to go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds and run a quarter mile in under 12 seconds. This next one comes from one of my favorite manufacturers. Number 10 is the Triumph Thunderbird Storm 1700. This British manufacturer has been around since the early 1900s and is famous for its unique parallel twin. The Thunderbird Storm has a dry weight of 679 pounds and houses the largest liquid-cooled parallel twin ever made, with a displacement of 1700 cc's. It outputs 98 horsepower at 5200 RPM and a meaty 115 foot-pounds of torque at just 2900 RPM. It could run low 4 second 0 to 60s and 13 second quarter miles. Unfortunately, Triumph discontinued the Storm in 2017. Number 9 is the mighty Honda VTX 1800. This bike really shook up the cruiser world back in the early 2000s and had one of the largest and most powerful production V-twins of its time. Its 1800cc liquid-cooled V-twin featured an offset dual-pin crankshaft, which made it perfectly balanced. The 714-pound VTX 1800 puts out 101 horsepower at 5,000 RPM and 117 foot-pounds of torque at 3,000 RPM, which explains the sub 4 second 0 to 60s and low 12-second quarter miles. Honda discontinued the bike in 2008. I was able to ride one of these over the summer, and so far it's the fastest and smoothest V-twin cruiser I've ridden yet. It had a car tire on it too. Check out my video. Number 8 on the list is the Yamaha Raider. This chopper-style cruiser had a massive 1900cc air-cooled V-twin that put out 95 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and 123 foot-pounds of torque at 2,200 RPM. The motor features a penta-roof combustion chamber and exhaust ultimate power valve system found on their line of high-performance motorcycles. The Raider can go from 0 to 60 in under 4 seconds and run the quarter mile in 12 seconds flat. I've heard there's a stock motor Raider out there running sub 11 second quarter miles with just a pulley kit and a Barnett clutch. Yamaha discontinued the Raider in 2017. Number 7 on the list is the bike that has everyone in an uproar lately. I'm talking about the Indian Challenger with its class-leading liquid-cooled motor, the Power Plus 108. This bike is a direct competitor to the Harley Road Glide, except this 830-pound bagger puts out 122 horsepower at 5,500 RPM and 128 foot-pounds of torque at 3,800 RPM, right from the factory. The Indian Challenger can run mid-12s in the quarter mile and hit 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, which is absolutely unreal for a factory bagger. The Indian Challenger placed first and third in the Battle of the Baggers race at Laguna Seca, among a sea of Harley-Davidsons. Number 6 on the list is the Honda Valkyrie. This absolute behemoth was essentially a stripped-down Goldwing and was one of the top muscle cruisers since the late 90s. You can instantly recognize the Valkyrie from its massive engine that sticks out either side. The 750-pound Valkyrie houses a buttery smooth 1800cc liquid-cooled flat 6 motor that puts out 118 horsepower at 5600 RPM and 125 foot-pounds of torque at 4000 RPM. Over 100 foot-pounds of torque on tap at just 2200 RPM meant it had power all the time, and one could lug it down in any gear and pull away swiftly. The Valkyrie can go 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds and do the quarter mile in less than 12 seconds. Honda discontinued the Valkyrie in 2015. Number 5 is the monstrous Kawasaki Vulcan 2000. This bike had the largest V-twin in mass production, coming in at 2000 cc's. This liquid-cooled 2-liter V-twin put out 116 horsepower at 5000 RPM and a mind-blowing 141 foot-pounds of torque at 3000 RPM. Despite a full curb weight of over 800 pounds, it could still go 0 to 60 in 4 seconds and run a low 12-second quarter mile. Supposedly, the Vulcan 2000 can hit 135 miles an hour with ease. The Vulcan 2000 was discontinued by Kawasaki back in 2010. Number 4 on the list is Suzuki's flagship cruiser, the M109R. It was the most powerful V-twin cruiser of its time, weighing in at 707 pounds dry and producing 128 horsepower at 6200 RPM and 118 foot-pounds of torque at 3200 RPM from its liquid-cooled 1800cc V-twin. It can go 0 to 60 in less than 4 seconds and run the quarter mile in 12 seconds flat. The Suzuki M109R is one of the last remaining metric power cruisers still offered today. Number 3 on the list is the most powerful bagger offered today, BMW's K1600B. This 741-pound touring bike comes equipped with a liquid-cooled 1600cc inline 6 that makes 160 horsepower at 7700 RPM and 129 foot-pounds of torque at 5200 RPM. This extreme amount of power paired with a factory quick shifter will send you from 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds. This bike can run the quarter mile in 11 seconds or less, which crowns it the fastest and most powerful factory bagger. You knew this was coming eventually. Number 2 on the list is the Yamaha VMAX 1700. This insane bike is considered the fastest cruiser of all time. The VMAX only weighs 683 pounds wet and has a 1700cc liquid-cooled V4 motor that produces an astonishing 200 horsepower at 9000 RPM and 123 foot-pounds of torque at 6500 RPM. This absolute screamer can go 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds and run low 10s in the quarter mile. Sadly, they discontinued the VMAX after 35 years. What the fuck, Yamaha? Last but not least, number 1 on the list is the ultimate muscle cruiser, the Triumph Rocket 3. It was introduced in 2004 as a muscle cruiser with the largest and most powerful engine in a production motorcycle. The Rocket 3 weighed in at 736 pounds dry and carried an enormous 2300cc liquid-cooled inline 3 engine that produced 148 horsepower at 5700 RPM and an earth-moving 163 foot-pounds of torque at 2700 RPM. The bike was completely redesigned for 2020 and is even more insane. The 2020 Rocket 3R now has a 2500cc inline 3 and only weighs 641 pounds dry. The new liquid-cooled 2.5-liter inline 3 produces 165 horsepower at 6000 RPM and 163 foot-pounds of torque at 4,000 RPM, which propels the bike from 0 to 60 in 2.7 seconds. The Rocket 3R can run the quarter mile in 10.5 seconds bone stock, which is incredible for a bike that size. Well, that's all I got for you guys. Throw this video a like and tell me what your favorite muscle cruiser is down in the comments. Check out some of my other videos and consider subscribing. Peace!